watching right now, because this has been driving me crazy too. There are people on the right who are like, you asked for this, you wanted this, you asked for this. Please show me a single example where I said I want criminal justice reform, where we turn a blind eye to violent crime. I've never said that. I've never been a proponent of that, ever.
Well, the counter to that would be they would say something to the effect of, you endorsed policies that led to this. This was an unintended consequence of the policies you previously endorsed.
Listen, I just didn't want people caught with drugs to be thrown in prison. Okay?
Right.
I didn't want nonviolent individuals to be targeted and thrown in prison. I wanted other solutions for those types of individuals, right? I wanted help for them, rehabilitation for them. I wanted to reform our prison system so it's not as inhumane and disgusting as it is. I want people to take prison rape seriously. It is not taken seriously at all. I wanted to, pursue better reforms and training for police, not doing away with police. I didn't think that was going to be a real objective, but for some it was. And, the other thing is, for the cities that did end up defunding the police and then immediately, reinstated the resources because they realized it was a bad idea, once you get rid of cops, it's really hard to recruit and bring on other cops, right?
Of course.
And so that's why a lot of places around the country are struggling right now with like a massive shortage. And, LA is one example. Oakland is like terrifying when it comes to their shortage. So look, I just think it's a balancing act. I don't want to be this like crazy, draconian, tough on crime person. That's never who I've been. But I do think it's important to keep people in society safe. That's the whole role of government. And if they're unable to do that because they're intimidated by a bunch of like activists who think that they're like doing God's work as they sit comfortably in their gated communities, well, then they need to be voted out.
So it's weird because like
I noticed in this video there was a comment made by Shoe on Head that people make claims that this show is a far right show, and then she says that people in the comment section many times the hosts have been pushing them left. So I guess in theory they're making these far right comments and the host is like pulling them back. I noticed the use of the word far right. I don't think I've ever heard anyone refer to the show as far right, but it's clearly a right-wing show. I mean, take a look. Who do you think these type of videos would appeal to? Do you think these are videos that will appeal to a left-wing audience or a right-wing audience? Is there a large left-wing audience that's interested in going after some liberal show, going after, again, a liberal show, going after a liberal, saying something the left has gone too far, is basically seems to be an underlying theme of this channel. I don't see a lot of videos going after Trump or going after, insane Republicans, right? So factually, this is a type of content that would appeal to a right-wing audience. That's just the reality of it. And if you're making content that would predominantly appeal to a right-wing audience, then you're a right-wing show. Far right, I think, is inaccurate, which is probably why Shoe on Ed likes to use that particular terminology instead of just simply talking about the reality that it's a right-wing show. And also notice that you don't see Anna on any left-wing shows, right? Somehow she keeps ending up on more right-wing shows. She keeps getting sort of promoted by right-wingers, and the type of right-wingers are not even like middle of the ground. I mean, you have Actual Justice Warrior, you have that crazy liberal hive mind. I mean, liberal hive mind, I mean, that's about as extreme right as you can get. I wouldn't say it's the most extreme, but it's pretty extremely partisan channel. And they're like, Anna, she stole the truth. I mean, something problematic there. But anyway, let's talk about the substance of this video. So what's interesting to me is, and first of all, let me qualify that you're not going to get anyone else to give you this perspective, right? Because all you're going to hear is from the left wing, they're going to focus on, Anna's betrayal, right? And she's pandering to the right and she's leaning right. And, she's trying to do the Dave Rubin. That's what they're going to focus on, right? So you're not going to get them to address the substance of Anna's failure in what she's stating in this particular video. And then the right wing, they're just going to applaud her, because she's agreeing with them. I don't know about the contrarian left, what they'll say about this particular video. I would expect they probably wouldn't even say anything. I don't expect to see videos from channels like Jackson Hinkle or the Revolutionary Blackout Network. I don't expect they're going to comment on this, but people like Majority Report, people like the Vanguard, these folks, I think, are going to, basically focus on her betrayal of left-wing values, right? But let's actually speak about the most important thing here, the most important critique, I think, and that is that Anna has learned nothing. So, right-wing would have you believe that she's now enlightened, and now he's seen the error of her ways, and at least she has the strength to be honest about it and be truthful about her errors and change her ways. But if you listen to what she's saying, so she admits to doing something that is very foolish and destructive for the country. But yet nowhere in what she's saying has she really learned her lesson. In fact, she seems to be doing what I feel many Americans do politically. It's like they are in some misinformed bubble, pushing, misinformation and incorrect or incomplete details. And then they have this awakening where they realize they're being misled. They're in this bubble that's not presenting reality. And then rather than learning from that and moving on to a more reality-based world, they swing hard and overcompensate and go into another bubble. The extreme scenarios are people who were former Obama supporters, and they were watching CNN and MSNBC and following along with all the liberal talking points. And then at one point in time, something happens where they realize they were misinformed about something, and then they start rethinking things, and then they see one thing and another thing, and a lot of lies and misinformation coming from their media sources. But then rather than learning from their mistakes and seeking higher quality media, they overcorrect and focus so much on running far away from the media that they've previously been consuming that they run right into the arms of even more deceptive media in the right wing. So now they're in yet another media bubble that's pushing even more misinformation, that's even more dishonest. And this is typically not even necessarily left wing to right wing, but I think mainstream media to independent media. So whether you're a conservative that used to watch Fox and now you're like, Fox is dishonest, but now you're consuming even more dishonest, independent conservative media that does what Fox News does, but on an even more extreme level, because they're accountable to no one. At least Fox News, as bad as they are, there are certain limits, right? People have been fired from Fox News, right? So you can't just say whatever and do whatever. In independent media, you can. You can literally make every single video just saying the same thing, the liberals suck, whatever it is, right? As long as it's getting views and clicks, it's okay. There's no board of directors, there's no legal team, right? So people will reject, mainstream conservative media and then go to even more dishonest left-wing conservative media. People will reject mainstream liberal media and then they'll go and jump into even more dishonest, even more partisan, independent, progressive media or left-wing media. So here's the mistake that Anna made that she hasn't learned from, right? Based on what she's saying here, because she made a mistake in, so you see something that is a problem, right? Or more likely, someone else presents to you something that is a problem, right? You have people that didn't really do anything. They're not really criminals per se. I mean, technically they are, but they're people who are struggling and they're just looking for a way to get by and to survive. And you may point out that they're disadvantaged because of racism or whatever it is, right? But they're not out there killing people. They're not out there like doing scams. They're just selling a little bit of weed, and then they get like a 10-year sentence, right? So this rhetoric is presented to someone like Anna in her ideological bubble, and then solutions are presented by those people that she trusts and listens to, and those are the ones who are influencing her point of view. And they say, we need to get rid of prisons, or we need to get whatever it is, like whatever their measure is. It's presented, and people like Anna will just go along with the rhetoric that's coming from her tribe, right? So we need to stop treating these people as like they're murderers, and it's just a little bit of weed, and we gotta recognize what's behind it, why they're doing it in the first place. The sentences should be more appropriate to the crime, blah, blah, blah. And then again, whatever the solution is that tribe is coming up with, she will promote it uncritically, right? And that is, to me, the problem, right? So for example, she's talking about, the defund the police movement, right? So she's pointing out she wanted police reform, right? But whatever they're doing, I guess she's trying to say they went too far, or whatever. Left has gone too far. We heard it before. And she's like, I want something balanced. I don't want to go to the extreme, like really hardcore, lock everybody up. But the same token, I don't want to go the opposite way where we're just letting people go. But here's what's missing from what she's saying, right? This is what she should have done. This is what we all should be doing, right? Whenever there's an issue that you're concerned with and there's a solution presented, you need to be as skeptical of those solutions as you would if the solutions were coming from your political opponents, right? So if your side is talking about defund the police, you need to examine what that actually means. You need to interrogate the people who are pushing this rhetoric and challenge them on what they're saying. So what does this actually look like? How would this actually work, right? And then also, if they actually implement these things, you need to stay on top of it and see how the implementation is going. And if there's issues that you recognize, because you're paying attention, you didn't just push for policy and then move on to the next topic. If you're paying attention and you're seeing flaws, then you need to be as loud calling out those flaws as you were pushing these ideas, right? So defund, I'm not saying she pushed defund the police, to be clear, but by what she's saying, she pushed for certain policies that ends up being problematic in the end. So whatever those policies are, if you were pushing defund the police or whatever it is, and then you just ignored it and moved on, and then you allow bad faith actors on the right looking for vectors to attack the left to be the only ones that are sitting there and saying, look at all this stuff and they're pro crime and what. Okay, so it's bad faith arguments, right? They're being dishonest, trying to say that the left is pro crime, but they're not totally lying. They start with a little bit of truth and they add a lot of lies to it, but there's a little bit of truth, and someone like Anna wouldn't see that truth, right? Because she just look at it as like, oh, they're just being bad faith, which they are, right? But again, don't let your political opponents be the only ones that are suspicious and interrogating the things that you're pushing for. You need to be even more suspicious and even more sort of looking into these things than they are, right? So while they're pushing their bad faith rhetoric about, oh, they're pro-crime, you can have a good faith pushback and say, yes, I was for defund the police, but this is not the way it should work. For example, let me talk about defund the police real briefly. So I do support defunding of the police, but not the version that the right wing presents, right? Because they're not being good faith, right? They're just trying to attack the left. So what they're talking about is like, let's just get rid of the police and then crime runs rampant. I'm not for that. I'm not for the extremists, like the far left folks that actually do want that stuff. And that's what gives the right wing fuel. They focus on the extremists. I'm talking about defund the police, where it's a police reform thing where, like, I've seen, if you watch some of these First Amendment auditors, I've seen situations where you have like 6 or 7 police that show up for a guy with a camera. I mean, if you have enough police that you can afford to send 6 officers to respond to a guy with a camera, I think maybe some of that money for some of those officers could be applied to things that can address some of the issues that are leading to the crime. So for example, what you do is you make an assessment of the amount of police officers you have relative to the amount of crime, right? And if you're finding excesses like that, like where you have a lot of police officers just kind of hanging around with nothing to do, then to me, you downsize the excesses and replace it with what you need, which is, people get in law enforcement to do law enforcement, but a lot of times they find themselves doing things that are not law enforcement. Like, why should a police officer have to be dealing with someone who's mentally ill, right? The profession is law enforcement. Like, what is the law enforcement of dealing with somebody who's mentally ill, right? So if you have so many officers, you could send 6 people to look for a guy with a camera, then some of those salaries could go to some kind of social workers or whatever. Now, right wing obviously would want to pretend like we want everybody to be social workers, and when there's a burglary, you're gonna have a social worker coming out. But that's nonsense, right? The idea is you have the right amount of police to do law enforcement, and you have the right amount of social workers to do social work, right? So therefore, if you are in a place that already doesn't have enough police, obviously you don't reduce the police officers, right? But what was happening is, again, there's a lack of critical thinking. You see this problem, a solution is presented by your tribe, defund the police, and then you just go along with whatever they're saying, defund the police, all cops are bastards, right? So then you apply across the board. So even in areas where they don't have enough police already, again, you're just black and white thinking. It's too much police, police are worthless, blah, blah, blah. So a place that doesn't have enough police, maybe they get pressured into lowering the police, and obviously that's going to create a spike in crime, and then that just sort of smears the entire idea of defunding the police. Like, oh, it's a failure. No, it's not a failure. It's about execution, and this is one of the reasons that the left fails a lot. The stuff that they push for, it'll be to address things that are important, and the ideas on the surface will be pretty good many times as a draft, but they're incomplete ideas. And because the people that are promoting them aren't really thinking too deeply, it's just more about me being in my tribe, they will end up supporting incomplete ideas that are badly executed, which again, it makes a problem worse, which leads a gap to where the country can move more to the right, because it is perceived as if left-wing ideas are just dumb, right? So, for example, if you have an area that doesn't have enough police and then you reduce the police even more, then crime goes up. Then it's kind of like, okay, this whole idea is bad. It doesn't work anywhere. There's no merit to it. And the people pushing it are just crazy people, right? So now we just like, you know what, we need to get even more police. So then you end up with more police than you had to begin with. And the places that are over-policed, that have police officers spending too much time doing things that are not law enforcement, those areas don't get addressed because the entire idea gets demolished by bad execution. So again, this is one of the key mistakes Anna has made, and she's making no sort of representation that she has learned from this, that she's going to do better in the future, right? Because where is she at? You were pushing these things and it had bad results, and then her only thing is, well, we've got to be balanced. Like, there is no specific idea articulated in terms of, I was doing things wrong previously, and now I'm going to do things better, and this is the way to do it. So not only is she sharing what she's learned and how she's better now, but she's informing others of like, this is the proper way to do it, right? But we're not getting that from her. We're not getting that level of substance. It's just kind of like, oh, whatever. I was wrong. I fell for some stuff, and now I'm, gonna go on right-wing shows and be all friendly, and and I also noticed she mentions in the video, she says something about she lost audience members because of going on this show, and she found that only a small amount of people left. But ultimately, it seems that most people want, a diverse perspectives. They want to hear diverse perspectives. If that was the case, why is it that the biggest and most successful channels are the ones that are the most partisan? Right? Why is that the case? Right? The reality is, most people, like in America, anyway, I don't know about other countries, but they like to be pandered to. Right? That's why TYT was as successful as it was previously. Now it's not as much for various reasons. We won't get into that in this particular video, but the reality is, I mean, look at Ben Shapiro. Is he giving diverse opinions? He's one of the most successful in the business. Is he successful because he's giving diverse opinions? Brian Tyler Cohen got out as far as to interview the president of the United States. Is that because he's giving diverse opinions, and that's what people are really wanting, right? They want diverse opinions. Is that what it is? Is that why people are moving away from mainstream media? Mainstream media is partisan, but the people leaving mainstream media are going to even more partisan independent media. Are they doing that because most people want diverse opinions? Most people don't want diverse opinions. Most people want, people that agree with them, right? They want to feel good about themselves and their ideas, to know that they are correct. They are better than others. They're the smart ones. The other people are the idiots. They love content where you're calling out their opponents as fools. Look at these fools. The left has gone too far, or the right wing has gone. Like, that's what people want to hear, right? Those are the channels that do very well. And notice the channels that she's going on. Again, these right-wing channels. These are not diverse opinion channels, right? These are very partisan channels that you already know what their positions are going to be on any issue that comes up, pretty much. You can assume what the position is going to be just based on how partisan they are. I mean, look at the videos on this particular channel, right? There's a very clear pattern. There's not diverse opinions in terms of the way this show is presented. Now, bad faith argument to what I'm saying is, if I were to talk to them, they would tell me differently, and they would present how they've had diverse opinions on the shows if I don't recognize that. Like, nothing is black and white, right? I'm not saying that they're satanic, right? So they're not 100% just right-wing stuff. I realize that they might push back here and there on the right wing. They're not going 100%. Like, no one does that. No one, even the most partisan person, well, almost no one, but even the most partisan people, they will occasionally push back on their side. Like, that's actually the typical propaganda model. 98% against the other side, 2% sort of against your side. So that's nothing new to present that to me as an argument that these guys are not like super partisan and, pandering to a certain ideology. Anyway, those are my thoughts. This is Debate Me channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.